Okay, it's 5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 o'clock on the East Coast. The meeting will come to order. Rachel, would you please call the roll?
So Rachel Anger is present. Kathy Calhoun.
Here.
John Kalila.
Present.
Kenny Curley.
Here.
Pam Delabar.
Here.
Kathy Dunham.
Here.
George Eigenhauser.
Here.
Mark Hannon.
Here.
Yukiko Hayata.
Here.
Carol Krasnowski.
Here.
Rich Maston.
Here.
Steve McCullough.
Here.
Melanie Morgan.
Here.
Pam Moser.
Here.
Daryl Newkirk.
Here.
Sharon Roy.
Here.
Howard Webster.
Here.
Annette Wilson.
Here.
From central office, we have Eileen Tartaglia.
Here.
Shelley Perkins. Not on
Here.
yet. Well, thank you.
I'm here.
Thank you. James Simbro.
I'm here.
Is Shelley Borowski on the call?
No.
No, okay. And then we also have from the ID, Eva Chen. No Eva. Is Matt Wong on the call?
No,
And
Matthew.
Gavin- And Gavin Cow.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the call as a panelist whose name I have not called? So we have all the board members present and a quorum. I will turn the meeting back over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, our first order of business is to approve the orders of the day. And Rachel, I know you have some additions to the agenda.
I do. I had to move everything in a different room. I'm sorry. Can I have just a second to go get my list?
Yep.
Thank you. Something about the best laid plans, am I right? Okay. Under new business, we have an item that Eileen will be presenting regarding live streaming equipment. Sharon Roy has a motion about the entry limit for her regional show. Pam Delabar has a proposal about a letter regarding flying into the Ukraine. Kathy Calhoun has an entry issue. Those are
That's
the four.
Kathy Dunham,
That's
Rachel.
Kathy, yeah.
So sorry. Kathy Dunham has an entry issue.
And that's in closed session, please.
Oh, okay. Rachel, we also need to move Kenny's International Division report in closed session in front of 16.
I believe it is in closed session.
No, but he wanted to do that at the beginning of closed session.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you both.
Nope. I see Matthew Wong is here.
So noted.
Matthew, are you on?
I'm promoting them right now.
Okay.
Wait, Shelley. She ended up.
Yes, there I'm here. It's Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Pam Delabar.
My issue needs to be in closed session also. That we're going to be discussing a possible policy.
Okay. Okay, Eileen, your live streaming is open. Sharon Roy, yours is open. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, mine is open. Sorry, I had to unmute.
Not a problem. Okay.
It's
Go ahead, Rachel.
thank you. I also have a guest judging motion that we'll be presenting during the judging program report by Vicki Nye.
Oh, in closed session or open session?
Open.
Open, okay. Okay, all right. Any other changes to our orders of business? Pam, your hand's still up.
Sorry, I'm probably still asleep.
Okay, Rachel, you're okay. You took your hand down. Okay. Any objections to our reordered orders of business? Hearing no objection by unanimous consent. So we'll start out with number 2, Rachel.
Thank you. I have a couple of changes to make to the online motions. I'm trying to log on so I can get my notes here. 4 and 6 are duplicates, so I would like to strike number 6.
Okay.
Sorry, this takes forever to log on to my other account. Okay. And I also want to apologize for the agenda. It will be revised. Someone has a code in their report that transferred over, which canceled out my automatic numbering. So I'll have to start the document over from scratch. On motion number 4, the actual motion is, I rewrote it here, and the motion that we voted on is slightly different. The motion should say, please allow Mad Catter's Cat Club, a Southern Region club, to relocate their show April 16, 17, 2022, 54 miles from Frederick, Maryland to Parkville, Maryland. We should also note that Maston and Calhoun abstained on that vote.
Okay.
Those are the only changes to the online motions.
Okay, any talk about number 1? Rick?
Yeah, Rachel, number 4, as it's listed on the ratification of online motions, that is the motion that Kathy Calhoun and I abstained. And then Kenny presented the motion that you just read to the board. And I believe the executive committee all voted in favor of that. And there was some discussion prior to it leading to the executive committee voting in favor. And Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you confirmed with all the adjoining regional directors, and they approved your request.
That is correct, Rich.
Okay, Annette, I think you and Mark made comments when this got posted to the board list. Do you have any comments now? Annette?
I don't have any comments. It passed. I've moved on.
Okay, all right. Okay, any issues with 2, 3? Okay. No, okay. So you want to ratify these en masse?
That's my motion. If you can hear me over the lawnmower
Yeah.
noise.
Kenny will second.
All right, thank you. So is there any objection to the ratification of these 5 motions? All right, seeing no objection by unanimous consent, they're ratified. Okay. Move on to number 3, Rachel.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep myself muted to cut down on all the background noise. If others could do the same, that would be awesome. Next is the judging program report. Hang on. There we go. And the first report that you see is the Associate Judge Committee. I'd like to make a standing motion for approval of any of the judging program motions, both open and closed session.
Okay. Anybody want to make a standing second?
Kenny will make a standing second.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank
Okay,
you,
go
Kenny.
ahead.
The first motion is we're asking to advance the China T2 associate trainees to associate judges, and that will be dealt with in executive session. As will number 2, that refers to 2 other items. Number 3 is approval of the CFA associate program guidelines as presented. We've seen this a few times, and hopefully the 3rd or 4th time will be the charm here. I broke it up into more of a table. Each category that a number would be helpful to have has had a number inserted, and we hope that it meets with everyone's approval. I've received no feedback since we sent the report out, so I would like to move that we approve the CFA associate program guidelines as you see presented here.
Okay, thank you. Melanie Morgan, you're recognized.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you, Rachel, for putting this together. We asked for more specifics, and I'm glad to see them here. So, many thanks to you and all the committee for putting it together. I have only one suggestion, and that would be on club membership. I'd like to see it specify they must be an active member in good standing with a minimum number of 2 years.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion on the application criteria presented? Any objection to as modified by Melanie? Any objections? Okay. Go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, thank you. It already says 2 years. What is the exact edit you'd like to make? Would you like to add in good standing?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
So we'll have at least 2 years club membership, at least 2 years club membership required in good standing.
Right. My concern here is that they could have 2 years of club membership 4 years ago based off the way it's written. So somehow I wanted to say basically they're a currently an active member and have had at least 2 years membership.
why don't you just put current instead in front of club membership?
Perfect.
Okay, with that, Rachel?
Yes. Do you want to leave in good standing?
I like that. Yes.
So under club memberships held, the requirement will be at least 2 years current club membership required in good standing, comma, in good standing.
Is that okay, Melanie?
Good by me.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion on that? Okay, anyone opposed to the edits and the final draft here? Okay, seeing no objections by unanimous consent, this proposal is adopted.
Thank you very much, everyone. Next is our application subcommittee report. You see that no applications have been received. So we'll move on to the trainee and advancing judges subcommittee. They give a bit of their history. We do have an action item. Again, it will come up in executive session to advance Jennifer Redding to long hair second specialty. And then moving on to the approved judge administrator report.
Rachel, hang on a minute. Pam
yeah.
Delmore has her hand up.
back under the associate program, there was an item stating if we should continue the program, flipping through there very quickly. I would like to be able to bring a motion to the board at our next meeting to have the associate program for Europe. I've been asking for that, I think, for about the time we started the associate program. We need to get it off the ground. We've just got to do it. Such situations have cut us out of 4 of our judges that we could get from the approved guest judge list. We're hurting and we need to address it now, actually. But I didn't have a chance to write up a motion before this board meeting. I want to bring that up later.
Rachel?
Thank you. I know Pam has been crazy busy with some other hot issues, but the Region 9 Associate Judge proposal was, I think it was left where you and Ann were going to work together on that and bring forward something. So I believe Ann was waiting for that.
Annie?
Yeah, I do know that Ann is somewhat supportive of that. And yeah, Region 9 has needed a little bit of special treatment for a while. It's a fantastic area. And they do need some judges. They have challenges for many different reasons, as well as the same here in the U.S. Pam, I'll be over here for the next couple of weeks. Maybe we'll have a chance to talk, and I'll help you whatever I can to do to move this forward. But I'm
I will
totally
see you
supportive.
Friday,
And I'd like to personally thank you on behalf of all my constituents here in the Southern region for the work you and Peter and Charlene Campbell and the BOAS has done for our friends in Ukraine. So thanks again.
We all thank you, Pam, for that. Lots of work. All right, Rachel, back to you.
There we go. So our next report is Vicki Nye's report. This is the approved judges.
Hi, Rachel. It's Vicki. I'm on.
Great, thank you.
Under the leave, hi, Daryl. Under the leave of absences, we have received a request from Jerry Zatoli for a leave of absence from April 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2022, per the February 6th board action, which granted Rachel authority to handle these and then document it for the board after the fact. That's the way we've handled this. In addition, Ellen Honey was originally approved for a leave of absence to extend to May 22nd, 2022. And I have since received her physician's signed release to return to judging as of April 12th.
Okay, thank you.
Under retirements, we received a retirement letter from Sharon McKeon Bounds. I've copied the letter here with her permission. Sharon's catering name was Shabu, and Sharon had been in the judging program for 33 years, I believe. And her retirement was received and accepted by us via email. Additionally, we received news that sadly Jody Garrison had passed away. Jody retired from judging April 30th, 2016 and was granted the title of Judge Emeritus. And she passed away on March 28th, 2022. Moving on to the guest judging administrator report. The first section is relatively accurate. The CFA judges requesting permission to judge for other associations. The second section, however, has been a moving target. And that's due to the fact that we have 3 upcoming shows in Europe, April 9th and 10th, 16th and 17th, and 23rd and 24th. All three shows had Olga Grabneva and Olga Korontojokina. Sorry if I mispronounced that one. Judging, neither one is able to leave the Ukraine at this time. They are trying to all replace judges. Italy was able to replace with Inga Valsian, who is a tier 1 approved guest judge. And I believe Daniel Kunes, who's also a tier 1. Right now, we're trying to assist Cat H. Art in replacing their 2 judges. And I've sent emails back and forth with Frederic Goder on that. And I understand that the last show of the season, Felinas International, has replaced Olga and Olga with Inge and Peter himself. Additionally, change to this, we have the one that Rachel was mentioning as additional business for the guest judging program. The club that's been very active in Thailand, putting on shows virtually every other weekend, Central Breed Cat Club, they are trying to put on a show on the 23rd and 24th of the year. I believe they already have sponsorship. The people that are sponsoring these shows, or the club, is fairly new. They're not that up on show rules. They reached out to a judge that was not on the tier 1 list in Australia. So apparently Australia is now able to fly to Thailand, and engaged a guest judge and also paid for their airfare. So our motion, and Aline, do you have that one up and available?
Yes. Just give me 1 second. Hold on.
So they already have Alan, Raymond, and Douglas. The guest judge is judge for CFA before, Janice Christensen, and I do have her resume. They also have an additional TBA that they're trying to fill with associate judges, but they're having difficulty with that. They're still working on the other judge, so be alert that there may be another motion for another guest judge. I'm not sure how they're going to fill that. The current motion, however, is due to the fact that they're trying to fill this show with a guest judge less than 60 days, which is what Show Rule 3.02C requires. So the motion is grant an exception to Show Rule 3.02C and allow Central Breed Cat Club to hire guest judge Janet Christensen to judge the show on April 23rd, 2022 in Bangkok, Thailand. And that's the idea.
Any discussion on that? I know Janice, she's an excellent judge. So I see Rachel shaking her head, so, and Pam. All right, any objections to setting aside this show rule to allow this to happen? Seeing no objections by unanimous consent, Janice Christensen will be able to judge April 23rd in Bangkok.
Thank you very much to the board, and I will convey that information to the club and also to Lisa, who will be fielding that show license.
Okay.
That's all for me.
Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Rachel, back to you.
We wrap up our report with a summary by the Breed Awareness and Orientation School Subcommittee. Are there any questions on any sections of the judging program report? Open session. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rachel. Excellent report. Let's move on to central office report. Aline.
The first one is just simply information that we're getting started on site visits for the 2 annual meetings, 2026 and 2027. I'll have more information on that later. I do have 2 motions, if you desire. The first one is regarding the use of the word champ in a cat's name. As it's explained here, but the rules of registration indicate that champion nor champ should be used in a cat's name. we inadvertently used the word champ in a cat's name. And I'm wondering, is the word champ a problem in a cat's name? I don't think it is, but I'm just providing that to you to see what you thought. And there was a board action item if you want to consider it.
Melanie?
Thank you. While I'm not sure that I don't agree with you, Eileen, that it may not be a problem. If the rules of registration specify that the word champ isn't to be used, I see no reason to change that just because it was inadvertently used. So, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. And based off that, I'm not supporting it.
And just, it wasn't my intent to just have this rule for this particular purpose. It just simply brought it to our attention, the rule that's there. And we were discussing in the office and thought, well, we're not even sure why it was ever there.
Okay, Mark Hannon, you're recognized.
No, I agree. We should not be using champ. I don't support this.
All right. All right. So Eileen, it fails for lack of a motion.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So
All right.
let's go to the next one.
The next one is the amendment to the bylaws that the board passed at the February meeting, and it was to allow electronic tallying of the ballots. And that would be in addition to hand counting. It would be a choice of whichever way we wanted to go. That's all that this amendment did. And I was supposed to come back with a rationale for the amendment, and this is the rationale. It's basically what was presented in February.
Rachel moves.
Okay.
Or seconds.
Kathy seconds.
Okay. George and Kathy seconded. All right. Any discussion on this amendment to the bylaws? No. And so, okay. All right. So any objection? Seeing no objection by unanimous consent, it is approved.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Eileen. Let's go on to the budget report. Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
The budget report, the details of the budget report will be in closed session. If we arrive at an agreement on the budget, it will be inserted after it's approved.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's treasurer's report. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, thank you. I just want to point out a couple of things, primarily that registration is down 6.45%. This has been an ongoing trend. The key indicators are highlighted. I'm not going to drain that. Eileen, if you could just continue to scroll to the bottom. Okay, yeah, we stopped there. I want to call out that our net income is $150,722. It exceeded the budget. We thought we would be about $14,000. While that is great, I also, in particular, I want us to be mindful of this when we talk about the budget. No, you're good. You're good. The net operating income is really a critical number. It's a very simple number. It's just income less expenses without all of the rental income and anything from investments. So that's really an important key point there. So our net operating income is $170,794. Just wanted to call attention to that particular line item because we'll be revisiting that when we talk about the budget. That's it.
Any comments? Okay, thank you, Kathy. James Sembro, you're recognized for the IT report.
Good evening. Nothing to add to the report that's already on here. If there's any questions about these items, I'll entertain those.
Okay, anyone have questions for James? Okay, no hands up, James. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the awards. That's business order number 8. Kathy Dunham, you're recognized.
Thank you, Daryl. As you can see, the committee is continuing to
to work on planning for the annual banquet and the honoring of our award winners from the 1920 and the 21-22 winners. We also worked with central office to redesign the Star Award pin, and that is presented there for you to see. We were able to purchase 150 pins for $600, which was below our budget request. So that was good news. And then our motion this evening is to accept the guidelines and criteria for the Star Award as presented here. If you have any questions, let me know.
Mark Hannon,
It's my understanding that after the 10th criteria,
Mark, can you hang on? Let's get a second before we debate it.
Kathy seconds.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mark.
the comments that are below item number 10 were not originally part of the criteria. They were part of an email that Mary Kay sent to the board and somehow got added in here. And so I don't think that should be part of the criteria. Everything after number 10.
Oh, that's fine, Mark. I just put it in here so that everybody knew that that information was there.
Right, but I wanted them to understand what they're voting on is through number 10. They're not voting on below that.
Yes, that's fine. And I accept that.
Great. Thank you, Mark, for pointing that out. Any other comments? Okay, anybody object to the proposal? Seeing no objection by unanimous consent, it's approved. Anything else, Kathy?
Nope, that's it. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you very much. Okay, next is legal advisory, and Ally and Cindy Bird in the stands. Okay, so I don't see Cindy there. So George, you're on the committee. You want to take this on then?
Oh, I wasn't prepared to, but any port in a storm.
Okay.
Okay. First item is something that came up during board discussions that our current bylaws need to have a provision that officers and directors must at all times be members in good standing of the association. We have that as a provision right now that they have to be in good standing in order to run. But then we completely forget about it once they're elected. So this would put them, put that into the bylaws and then provide that a director at large can be removed if they're no longer in good standing. And the reason it's limited director at large is because New York law requires that when you have a specific electorate that puts an officer on the board, it takes an action of that specific electorate to remove them. That's why we couldn't apply this to regional directors, but this has gone through the committee and has been approved by the powers that be. And I move that we submit this as a board amendment to the bylaws.
Rich will second.
Thank you, Rich. Any discussion? Kenny, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm somewhat for and against it. I'm torn in the middle as far as this is concerned, depending upon the makeup of the board and the situation that may arise. I understand completely, based on past experience, why this has come up. But again, I think that within the walls of our country, it's very important that our electorate have a voice. So I'm going to have to at least abstain from moving forward to supporting this.
Annie, can I just say one thing in response to that?
Sure.
We can't adopt this today. All we can do is send this to the electorate and see if this is what they want.
Well, no, I
That's
don't
all.
have a problem with it, but I'm just expressing my opposition at this point, depending upon, the discussion that's going to follow. But no, I understand what you're saying, George.
Okay. Mark, you had your hand up. You have a comment? No? Okay. Anyone else? Oh, hang on a second. Let me get over here on the right list. Okay. All right. So, all right. Since I know there's going to be an abstain, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. Okay, so the yes votes are Carol Krasnowski, Melanie Morgan, Mark Hannon, George Eigenhauser, Kathy Calhoun, Pam Delabar, Annette Wilson, Kathy Dunham, Rachel Anger, John Kalila, Rich Maston, Howard Webster, Sharon Roy, Pam Mosier, Hayata-san. Okay, if you'll take your hands down. Annette, did I call you? Oh, I did. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So if you're a no vote, raise your hand. Okay. No votes, Rachel. Abstentions. See Steve McCullough and Kenny Curley. And Rachel, you can announce the vote when you have it tabulated.
That's 15 yes votes, 0 no votes, 2 abstentions.
Okay, so the motion is agreed to. Okay, George, next.
Number 2 has to do with the removal of a director at large. And as I mentioned earlier, because they have a specific electorate, they can only be removed by that electorate. But our bylaws don't make any provision for that. So this would allow a regional director to be removed, essentially recalled by a vote held within their own region.
Okay. All right.
And I'll move we adopt it as a board-sponsored resolution of the annual.
Okay, thank you. I need a second.
Rich will second.
Thank you, Rich. Any discussion? Pam Mosier.
Yeah, George, my question is that on this, for regional directors, I mean, I was reading through these and it's kind of confusing to me because basically New York law states that the regional director can only be removed by the people that put them in office. Now, I don't know if this is saying that that's what they have to do, because it seems like you're contradicting yourselves in some of these motions. So I mean, if it's New York law that you can't be removed, I thought we go by New York law. So how can we make something else up to, mute the New York law?
This is in compliance with New York law. The regional director can only be removed by the voting clubs in their region. That's New York law. That's why the board can't remove them. Only their region can. And that is what this resolution is to do, is to allow the regions to vote to remove a regional director if they should choose to do so. So that is in compliance with New York law. Directors at large can be removed by the board. Regional directors can only be removed by the region. This would allow them to be removed by the region. Although New York law allows regional directors to be removed by the region, our bylaws don't make any kind of provision for it currently.
So what does that mean? I mean, then that's what I mean. I don't understand. You're saying that New York law, a regional director can't be removed, but then you said
except by the vote of their region.
Right.
Pam, it's the class of voters that put you there for the regional director.
No. I understand that part, Daryl. What I don't understand is that I think you're saying that the board can go ahead and still remove the regional director, even though.
No.
Okay, that's all I'm trying to clarify.
It says may only be removed by a vote of the voting member clubs in the region where the regional director elected the regional director. So only removed by a vote of the clubs in the region. That's the only way they can be removed.
Kenny, go ahead, Kenny.
No, I understand Pam's confusion. Again, I just go back to one simple notion. I don't want a huge power in the hands of so few. People get elected for a reason. Now, if we go with specific reasons then I would be supportive. So I'll be an abstention once again.
Okay. Any other comments? Pam, are you finished? You got any more questions?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, great. Let's vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the yes votes are Mark Cannon, Pam Delabar, Melanie Morgan, Carol Krasnowski, George Eigenhauser, Kathy Calhoun, Annette Wilson, Hayata San, Steve McCullough, Kathy Dunham, John Kalila, Rachel Anger, Pam Mosier, Rich Maston, Howard Webster. You'll take your hands down. Any no votes? Raise your hands. Okay, no votes, Rachel. Abstentions? Kenny Curley. Oh, and Sharon Roy. And you can announce the vote, Rachel.
That's 15 yes, 0 no, 2 abstentions.
Okay, thanks. The motion is agreed to. Okay, let's go on to number 3.
Number 3 is housekeeping. When we redid the bylaws before, basically the section on quorum moved. So it makes a reference to a section 1B that should be a reference to section 2.
Okay,
And I move we adopt it.
who was the second?
Rich.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Steve McCullough, you're recognized. You're muted, Steve.
I have a question about the second one where it says that is defined set forth in section 6B above. Where's 6B?
Yeah, I think Lorraine Shelton mentioned that in the chat, and I'd like to go back to that after we finish this one.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Kenny, any comments? Pam Delabar?
Second sentence where it says a majority of the executive board members pre-sent, pre-sent, just present, should read present, not pre-sent.
Thank you for catching that, Pam.
I'm surprised.
Lack of sleep, huh? All right, any other comments? Steve, your hand's still up. Okay, any objections?
As amended.
As amended. Thank you, George. All right. All right, seeing no objections, by unanimous consent, it's adopted. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to number 2. As was pointed out, it makes a reference to a section 6B above that it is 6B. So it's kind of circular reference. I would just take out the section B, just say as set forth above, because it refers to the unnumbered paragraph ahead of it that says failure to attend 3 consecutive board meetings, fail to attend 4 board meetings, which we are violating policies of the association or engaging in conduct detrimental to the best interest of the association. I think it should be a reference to that unnumbered paragraph above. So rather than saying in section 6B above, just say as set forth above.
Okay. All right, since we passed the motion, somebody want to make a motion to reconsider?
I'll move we reconsider.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, so now make your it's back now open, so you can amend what we got on the table.
Yeah, I'd like to remove at the end of paragraph A where it says as set forth in section 6B above, I'd rather say as set forth above and remove the in section 6B.
Somebody, can you mute Kenny? Your system's driving us crazy. All right, Rachel, go ahead.
I've been mute.
We need to vote on the motion to reconsider, I believe.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Shelley?
I was going to say you need to vote on the motion to reconsider, but also I believe that it references 6B above in both paragraph A and B. And
Okay.
so I'm hoping that the motion, once it's reconsidered, then the motion would be to say as set forth above in both paragraph A and B.
Okay, how about Alan, if you scroll down so we can see what we're voting on? No, the other way. Thank you.
That's where we are.
All right. Oh, okay. A and B both have 6B, so.
Let's reconsider, agree to reconsider first before we decide. what we're
Okay,
gonna do.
that's fine. Let's vote on, anybody object to the reconsideration? Rachel, are you objecting? No, okay, all right, all right. Seeing no objection, the reconsideration motion is approved. All right, now, what do we want to change?
Take out in section 6B above and change it just to set forth above in both A and B.
Okay,
Rich will second.
thank you. Shelley, does that meet your specifications?
No, I just wanted to say you still have to pass the change that's underlined as well, because you're reconsidering. So that motion is gone, so that you undid the vote because you're reconsidering. So what you need to say is the motion would be to pass B, except change that section like he just said in both A and B.
Well,
That's my motion.
We're doing amendment.
I thought you said a reconsideration. I'm sorry.
The reconsideration was by unanimous consent. So now we're amending. Once the amendment is done, then we'll vote on the motion.
Okay. So
All right.
I'm just saying that the motion to amend should include all the changes, which
Yes.
include voting on B again.
Yes, exactly. A and B. It's
Well,
just back out.
the amendment to the motion is only to those two parts of the motion, but when we vote on the main motion, it will be to add the section that's underscored, because that's the main motion.
Yes. Okay. All right. So George, you made the amendment. I think Rich seconded. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Any objection to the amendment? Seeing no objections, the amendment is adopted by unanimous consent. Now we have an amended main motion that strikes out 6B above in A and strikes out in section 6B above in B. And that being the heart of the issue here. Okay. All right. So I don't remember who, I think it was George and Rich who made the motion originally. So
That's correct.
okay. All right. Good deal. All right. Any discussion now? Everybody know where we're at, what we're voting on. Okay, any objection to the amended main motion? All right, seeing no, Kenny? You're muted.
Abstain.
All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. So the yes votes are Melanie Morgan, George Eigenhauser, Kathy Calhoun, Steve McCullough, Carol Krasnowski, Mark Hannon, John Kalila, Pam Mosier, Pam Delavar, Rich Maston, Annette Wilson, Kathy Calhoun. Where did Kathy? You moved up to the top for some reason. Okay. Rich Maston, Annette Wilson, Kathy Dunham, Hayata San, Rachel Anger, Howard Webster, Sharon Roy. Okay. You'll take your hands down. Are there any no votes? Abstentions? Kenny Curley. All right, Rachel, you can announce the vote.
Thank you. That's 16 yes votes, 0 no votes, 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, George, back to you.
I believe we've already passed item 3, so moving on to item 4, the whistleblower code of conduct policy. The best I can say about this is an immense amount of boilerplate. It's a really boring read, but our New York lawyer says we have to have it.
Yes.
So I move we adopt it as our policy.
Kenny seconds.
Thank you, Kenny. Is there any discussion on our whistleblower policy? Pam Delabar?
In my past life, I wrote many Army regulations for both the whistleblower, but specifically the one following. I realize there's a lot of lawyer speak here, but it needs, both areas need to be a little bit more Dick and Jane KISS principle, so we actually understand what we are to do and how we are to do it. There's just some statements that seem to be rather convoluted when I was reading through this several times on both the whistleblower and the conflict of interest policy, that just seem that we don't know who does what to whom in the way that so many things are stated. If it's our policy, do we have to have something that is so stated as it is here, or can we have something that since the majority of the population reads at the 10th grade level, something that fits, that we can actually understand, especially our employees and others that are interested in both of these policies?
Rich?
Yeah, thank you, Daryl. I agree with Pam, but in addition to that, and I know Cindy's put a lot of work in this and the committee who's reviewed it, I did not get a chance to do a thorough review on this, but I do see there's some spacing issues, maybe missing period. I do have a question on one of the requirements in here, if it is in line with our bylaws. And there's another section here that refers to something that we don't even have, which is a compensation committee. And then it refers to or board of directors in a different paragraph. I'd like to take the time and work with Cindy, George, and Shelley to try to get this down to something that's a little bit more manageable and easier, as Pam stated. Otherwise, if we're going to go with this, we've got to clean it up before the board brings this to final approval to bring to the delegation.
This doesn't go to the delegations, the board policy.
It doesn't have to, George?
Oh,
No.
Okay. Very good.
we're going to abide by what's required in New York law. This doesn't, this is a board policy. It's not a amendment to our bylaws.
Okay, great. Well, then I think we got time to clean this up.
Shelley?
If the way this is worded is required by New York state law, or we can use a shorter document.
Shelley?
Thank you. I agree with Rich. This was a template that was given to us overall by New York Attorney Anita. And I think that it was expected that we would tweak this heavily to match our organization, which I don't think has been thoroughly done yet. I did not review it yet myself formally, and even though I was on the committee. And so I really do support more time, just like Rich said. I think we can shorten it and streamline it.
Okay. Well, Cindy was a little bit frustrated because nobody gave input. All right. George?
Yeah, it seems to be there's a consensus. We'd like to see this and the one following rewritten. So what I would like to do is table them both to the next meeting, if that's permissible.
Sure. Need a second.
Second, Kenny.
Thank you. Any objections to tabling these to get a rework?
And to give Cindy, a chance to be in the meeting.
Yep. All right. Any objections to the tabling the two policies, the whistleblower policy and the conflict of interest policy? Okay, seeing no objection by unanimous consent, it's approved. Okay, George, you got anything else in there?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, Sharon Roy, you recognize for experimental formats. Kenny, would you mute, please? Thank you.
Okay, the first is just what's going to happen. I spent a lot of time with email back and forth with both Karen Lane and Karen Boyce on how we're going to handle the 2 special rings at the Southern Regional Awards. And by the way, they're the only region so far that has asked for that experimental format. So basically, the 2 judges will get a regular judge's book. They will go off and mark all the grand champions absent. And then they'll judge them just like they're judging a regular show. They will do a top 10 all breed champions. One of the questions that did come up was if there's multiple champions in a breed, will we give champion points in breed? And the old keep it simple for right now, no, we'll just do if you make the top 10, unless somebody has objections to doing it that way.
See any hands up, Sharon? George?
Yeah, I just want to be clear. Is this a one-off? Is this guidelines for a one show? Or is this an experimental format that although the other regions haven't signed up for yet, they still could?
They absolutely could. The other regions could sign up for it. What the board did pass was it had to be at their regional awards show. It's not something a region can just, or a club can just pick up and do at this point, because that's not what was passed by the board at the last meeting.
Yeah, then my only concern is if we're going to use the way you're doing it as the guidelines, on the 1 ring each day, I would leave it up to the regions to decide if they want to put both rings on the same day or one on each day, or even do a 1-day show and then both on the same day. So I'm going to vote yes on this, but I don't see why it needs to be 1 ring each day. I think that's a little constricting, but if no one else is interested, I'm not going to argue the point.
Just to explain the reason for 1 day was that's what we originally had thought about for the international, or what they originally thought about for the national show. So we kept it that way, but it's fine with me if clubs want to do it both on 1 day, as long as they don't go over the 6 rings per day judging.
Okay, Kenny?
Yeah, not only, it mainly a space issue as far as 1 each day. Although they could do 2 in 1. Plus, this is in conjunction with our regional banquet. We didn't want to slow the show down extra for that, but we just wanted to give our exhibitors an opportunity for grand points. So, and we do appreciate Sharon working on this so closely with Karen. Thank you.
Melanie?
Sharon, something that just came to me is that based off the entry, if there are space issues, it could be a situation where the count would be such that ring sharing would be appropriate. So again, limiting it to 1 each day might actually prove to be more restrictive. I'm kind of with George on this. I'd like to give the clubs the flexibility to make adjustments based off of what they get.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. We don't technically have a formal motion because the motion had already been passed to allow this to happen at regional shows. And we didn't specify at that point 1 each day or 2 on 1 day. I'm fine if regions want to do 2 on 1 day.
Kenny?
Yeah, to reiterate, their plan is to have 1 each day.
Okay. All right, so Sharon, you're not asking for a vote since you're just bringing this back as a guideline?
Absolutely. And to address Melanie's and George's point, as long as it doesn't go over the 6 rings per day judging, which would require some special voting, or there's no reason that they can't both if a region would prefer to have it all in 1 day.
Okay, great. Thank you. You want to move on to number 2 then?
Yeah, and I will turn this over, seeing it's the Egyptian Mouse Show. I'd like to turn this over to Melanie to go over exactly what's going to happen at that show.
Go ahead,
Thank
Melanie.
you. One of the things that's been interesting as I've gotten out there and been chatting this year with a lot of the exhibitors is I hear over and over, we need to put the emphasis on our breeds. And Jim's, I think, has been really good with the help of the board, which we are very appreciative of, and their support at coming up with these breed summit ideas, which have been phenomenally successful, bringing in exhibitors from all over our system globally, et cetera. One of the pieces of feedback we received from the exhibitors of the people who didn't have Egyptian mouse is that our summit type judging really put a big roadblock in what was going on. And so we started thinking about ways to make the show more user friendly to everyone and hopefully generate more entries. And that's what this idea is designed to try to address, so that perhaps we can add to the exhibitors who don't have Egyptian mouse, a little added bonus that they might be able to forego a hotel cost the night before, since the show will be starting later for them, and maybe come in that morning. So this is just our attempt to try to continue to refine the idea and move forward with it. Any questions?
Eddie?
No, I think this is a fantastic idea. When I was first going through the judging program, one of my training sessions was at a show at Pittsburgh, and it was an Egyptian mouse specialty show where I recall them having anywhere from 50 to 60 mouse in all three classes. It was truly fantastic. And this looks like it could be rekindled. So no, I applaud this effort, and I'm going to support it.
Okay. Melanie, you want to run through the proposal real quick so everybody knows what we're voting on?
Sure. What's going to happen basically is regular show hours for all non-Egyptian mounds will be announced as later in the day. I think it's 11:30. But Egyptian mound breeding will start at 8:30 in the morning. We'll start with 3 rings. One ring will have the kittens benched, one will have championship, and one will have premiership. If there's overflow because there's too many cats in one class, we'll move to more rings for that. And then we will do basically a version of maid judging, I guess, for lack of a better word, in that we'll bring the first 3 judges in right at 8:30. And they will be tasked with judging all of the Egyptian mouse from kittens through championship and premiership. Once they're done hanging each one of those classes as they would normally and filled in their books, they will then go back and select their top Egyptian mouse across all 3 classes. The number of best of the best in the breed will depend on the numbers of cats that are entered. And so then we will basically start with Judge 1 would go into the first ring, Judge 2 will go into the second ring, Judge 3 will go into the third. Once they're done, they've been checked out by the clerk for that ring. They'll then do musical chairs and flop to the next ring until all the 3 judgings have been done. We'll have a separate area where the judges will then go. And then one judge will come out to hang their top 3 best of the best, do their little mini final. We're going to have a ring manager who will orchestrate and make sure that, we're in compliance, no more than, that each judge gets what they need to do, but we're not overlapping. Once those 3 judges are done, they can go off and have breakfast or whatever, fill out their books for the rest of the show. And the other 3 judges will then proceed to finish the mound judging, which point the mounds go back to their benching area, and the other cats, which have been probably being benched during the latter part of this process, will be in, and the regular show will start. None of the judges will then be slowed down and not be able to do finals because they hadn't judged all 3 of the big Egyptian mound classes. So then they can just fold the Egyptian mounds back into their regular judging. So does that make sense? It's a really short synopsis of the whole idea, but we're really hopeful that it will flow smoothly, and there'll be some breaks built in for the cats as well.
So I have a question, Melanie.
Sure.
Will the cats that participate in this be entered in the regular show?
They are entered in the regular show. They're simply being judged between 8:30 and 11:30. And then, the judges will just have, it's kind of like when you judge, you're doing trainee and you do all your short hairs on one day and your long hairs on another. They will have just already been done.
Okay,
And
so they won't be judged again during the regular?
No. They will not be judged again. And in the past, when we've done the summit where we've judged all 3 classes, what's happened is because the judges are doing the kittens championship and premiership mouths all at once, they can't do a final when, if their schedule is such until they've judged all the mouths. So many of the finals were getting delayed.
Got it.
So it was creating these strange little roadblocks where it was gridlock and nothing could happen. We were trying to listen to the feedback we're getting from exhibitors from all sides.
Thank you. Pam Delabar?
Melanie, how long are the cats going to be held in the judging cages in the rings?
We're trying to build in, a lot of it will depend on the size of the classes because there'll be breaks in between each swap of rings. So if the owners feel that they need to take their cats back, they will be, that's why we're going to have ring manager. So that, if the owners feel that the cats need to be removed and need a break, then, during those ring swaps, we will be building in breaks.
Okay, any other questions for Melanie? Okay, so did we get a motion on a second for this?
No, you did not.
Okay, well, we need that.
Can I make that motion because I'm going to abstain on this?
Well, if you're gonna abstain, you can't make the motion.
I'll make the motion then. George moves.
Okay, all right, thank you, George. I need a second.
Kathy Calhoun, second.
Thank you. Okay. Since we've already discussed it, let's go ahead and vote on this. George?
Ready?
No?
No, I'm ready to vote.
Oh, okay. All right. Everybody in favor, raise your hand. All right, so the yes votes are Mark Cannon, Kathy Calhoun, John Kalila, Kenny Curley, Annette Wilson, Kathy Dunham, Carol Krasnowski, Hayata San, Rich Maston, Pam Delabar, Sharon Roy, Steve McCullough, Pam Mosier, Rachel Anger, Howard Webster.
And George.
And George. Okay, I think I called George first. You'll take your hands down. Any no votes? No votes, Rachel. Melanie, you can raise your hand for your abstention. Okay, Rachel, you could announce the vote.
That's 16 yes, 0 no, 1 abstention.
All right, good deal.
Really,
Sharon,
thank you to everyone.
Yep. Sharon, you have anything else?
No, not in
Okay.
experimental.
All right. Ellen, can you bring Nancy Dodds in as a panelist?
She's in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Hi, Nancy. You can go ahead and give your report, please.
Hi there.
How you doing?
Excuse me. We'll meet on Thursday at 9:30 following approval of the membership by the board. We'll discuss any problems that relate to the seating of the delegates. And based on my conversation with Aline, we'll also complete the inventory of ballots received and brought to the meeting by central office. We won't count the votes, but typically we've done that inventory on Friday morning. So that would cut down on the amount of time that we're going to need to count the votes. So we'll meet at 7 o'clock in the morning to count votes for regional director and officers. We have the following people that have remained on the committee. Region 1, Kevin Brown, excuse me, Kevin Brown and Marilyn Condy. Region 2, Aaron Cutchin and Kendall Smith. Region 3, Cheryl Peck and Pam Bassett. Region 4, Norm Ospitz and Barb Schreck. Region 5, Hillary Helmrich and Marianne Martin. Region 6, Jim Danison and Nancy Peterson. Region 7, Donna Andrews and Jill Archibald. We have 2 alternates, Betty Bridges and Marilee Griswold, both of whom would be present at the meeting and serve on the committee.
Okay. Any questions for Nancy? See no questions, Nancy. Thank you for providing the update.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to Carol Krasnowski with scoring.
Yes, actually Monty is the chair of the committee, but he has asked that Mary Kalenchik take the lead on this. I would ask that she be promoted to a panelist at this time.
Okay.
I am going to give a brief introduction and I'll be prepared to present the formal motions.
Okay.
I will do them individually since there are several motions in each section, as you have all read.
Almy, can you scroll up so we can see it?
I'm trying to get Mary in. Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Daryl,
Um,
on
where do
Nancy
you-
Dodd's reports, the dates are wrong.
where do you want me to?
Go down
Go
to
back, go back to Nancy's report. I don't know what date is wrong, but
2019,
Oh,
fourth sentence down.
oh, okay, yeah.
If we're being picky. Anyway, thanks.
No, it should be 2022. So
All right.
nothing we voted on. So Nancy, you can clean that up. And Rachel for the presentation of the minutes. So it's Mary Kay in. I don't see her.
Okay. Well, Eileen's promoting her. I'm going to just give a little brief introduction here. The committee was charged with presenting the parameters for national wind scoring for the 2022 and 2023 season. We've submitted a very comprehensive report and it's quite lengthy, and we just wanted to make sure that we provided ample information and a good background on why we are recommending the motions as we have presented them. We reviewed the current season scoring data as of the second weekend in March that Dick Kohlmeyer and James Simbro prepared for us. We also spoke with exhibitors and show halls to gather their opinions. Quite a bit of time actually went into preparation of this report. For the 2022-2023 season only, we are recommending to increase the number of rings scored in regions 1 to 9 to 75 for championship and premiership, 10 for kittens, and keep the number for 50 for household pets. We included point minimums to maintain the average ring value from the 2021-2022 season. This is due to the lower counts than usual that we've experienced this past season. For China and the international area, we recommend maintaining the 50-20 parameters. I would also like to mention the committee thanks Dick Kohlmeyer and James Simbro for their assistance with the data, and also the many exhibitors who were willing to chat with us at the shows about their thoughts and suggestions. And right now I'd like to turn it over to Mary. She could probably give a little bit more insight as to how we arrived at our motions.
Go ahead, Mary.
Hello, am I on?
You're on, Mary. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I was able to join.
Yeah.
Okay, so as Carol said, we collected some statistics, or Dick Kohlmeyer and James Simbro collected data for us. And the data is surprising and not so surprising, because when you think about it, it really matches what should happen. It turns out that if we count 50 rings, 75 or 100, the same cats are all going to be near the top. Now they're going to rank differently. Some might, 1 or 2 might be out of the top 25, but some might be in. So it's like, the reason why this isn't really surprising is those are the people who are trying for the awards, and they're going to try for the awards no matter what, because they have a great cat. So they're going to get up there, no matter how we count the rings. So the statistics, they only take us so far. They dispel a lot of the myths that people have about counting only 50 rings, but they only get us so far. What we had to do was ask people what they really wanted. And I talked to quite a few people at the show halls, and they were split. It is very, very split. Some people want to go back to counting 100 rings and 40 rings for kittens. And some people want to count 75 for adults and 30 for kittens. But the thing that everybody has in unison, in common, is they do not want to count 50 rings and they do not want to count 20. They want to increase it from there. It's just, some people are very concerned about the economy, the price of gas, and how that's going to work. And then other people are well, they want to show their cats as much as possible. We have some people in CFA that are really dedicated to showing their cats. And when they get a good one, they want to show it every week. So it's a toss-up. And what we felt as the committee, what the committee felt was that we thought that because not all areas of the world have returned to a normal show schedule with normal counts, really nowhere has returned to complete normal. But we've got some areas of the regions, and especially China and the international area, where they're just nowhere near normal. And so we thought a gradual increase to 75 rings in championship premiership and 30 for kittens and 50 for household pets, because there are some household pet exhibitors who really wanted to keep it at 50 to be able to encourage new people. What counting fewer rings does, it encourages people to go for it. If they see that they can do this in 6 months rather than a year, they're more willing to try to get it. So we did suggest an increase for those areas in regions 1 through 9. In China and the international area, no cats are anywhere near 50 or 20. There might be somebody in the international area that gets in there by coming because she's in the United States right now, but nobody's hitting those targets. So we did suggest leaving China and the international area at the lower values of the rings. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mary Kay.
Okay.
Carol, go ahead.
Daryl, at this time, do you want to move on to the motions?
Yes.
Okay. The first motion in each class is going to be our committee's recommendation based on a review of the data and our discussion with exhibitors. If the first motion fails in a section, then we have additional motions to present. But I'm going to proceed with presenting the first motion. This will be for championship in regions 1 through 9. The motion is that 75 rings will be credited, and there is a 3,000 point minimum for a national win.
Okay, Carol, hang on. I got some hands up. So Melanie, you're recognized.
Well, I was just waiting for the discussion. Has someone seconded her motion?
Well, she just read it, so she's making the motion. So I thought you guys had some questions about Mary Kay.
Kenny will second.
All right, Pam, did you have something besides the motion to talk about?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to make a statement that Region 9 will probably take a long time to get back to any sense of normality with our transportation problems, judge problems, whatever. But I intend to support the committee recommendations.
Thank you. George Eigenhauser, did you have something to say?
I was going to discuss the motion when you're ready for that.
Okay, all right. So Carol's made the motion. Kenny seconded it. So Melanie, you're recognized.
Thank you. My comments are, well, they apply to this motion, but they also apply to the following motions. But I think it's important to say them at the outset. Clearly, this committee has put a considerable amount of time and effort into this, and for that, I thank them. There's a lot of numbers to parse here. I myself came in and I recognized that I had preconceived notions, and I didn't want to let that personal bias impact how I viewed the proposal. So I made it a point since the last meeting where we assigned these people to research this, to ask for feedback from as many people as possible. And understanding that when we have our preconceived notions, we may or may not actually impact on how people, give their opinions. So, but I have to say, with a very few exceptions, the feedback I received was that people saw no reason to change the numbers from 140 for regions 1 through 8. Many, however, were open to looking at adjustments for 9, especially given what's happening with Ukraine and also the ID. You know, those areas have very different restrictions. People feel that reducing the numbers of rings are depressing entries. Ultimately, that hurts the clubs. I also received feedback from people that reducing the rings makes the count manipulation easier in terms of an impact on a campaign. You have a 10-ring show, and that could be 50%. I mean, no, it's a major portion of your 50 rings, any rate. So while reducing the number of rings made sense when we looked at this at the uncertain beginning of last season, I personally am not seeing any compelling reason to perpetuate it. I took a look at all the feedback I received. I read the report that was submitted here, which was very detailed. And then I took a hard look at the actual data that was provided, and understanding that numbers and statistics can be interpreted in many different ways. I have to say that I came up with a very different conclusion than the committee did from the very same data. I took issue with a number of assumptions that were made, mostly because there simply really isn't enough data for really meaningful conclusions. The bottom line is I looked at the statistics on the 50 versus 75 versus 100, and my conclusion was pretty simple. Despite what's implied in this report, there's no question that when we change the scoring parameters for a season, we change the makeup of the results. While it's true there are some cats that would not have been affected, especially at the top end of that ranking, changing the number of rings changes the ranking significantly in the kittens, especially, and the lower half of that top 25. So each one of those affected cats represents a breeder and an exhibitor who has their own specific hopes and dreams. So our actions affect them in a really personal way. The board has a responsibility to take that seriously. So to me, it boils down to the question of why. Why are we considering making a change to our scoring system without input from our constituents? In an environment that, while changed, is not in full crisis mode, at least in regions 1 through 8. They say that getting back to the first step to getting back to normal, or new normal, as the case may be here for us, is to start to act like things are normal. CFA is ever resilient, and our intrepid exhibitors have done just that. They're getting back to what they can in their new normal. So at this point, for the most part, shows have resumed in regions 1 through 8. Because this committee feels that reducing the number of rings will give exhibitors a better chance for a win, is that why we're looking at changing the numbers to 75? That's a different issue than the emergency situation that precipitated the adjustment in the first place last year. So anyway, I mentioned that I've been taking a lot of time lately to listen to the people who are out there breeding and exhibiting. It's been very, very eye-opening. One of the big takeaways I have heard loud and clear is that we as a board need to be careful not to overstep where we should go. We may think that we're doing the best thing here, and maybe it is, but the bottom line is that when it comes to major changes to our system, we should not take it upon ourselves to implement them without buy-in from our core customers. If there's a desire to change the number of rings used in our scoring system, that request should come from our delegates. In my opinion, changing from 140 is not something that's necessary in 1 through 8, and I'm not supporting the change. Sorry that went on long.
Yeah, George, you're recognized.
Actually, I'm glad Melanie went that long, because that way I have less to say. I agree with every word she said. This comment applies to the next several votes in a row, all of the votes for regions 1 through 8. And again, I'm willing to make a carve out for region 9 because of the exception there. We made an exception to the show rules because we were in the middle of a pandemic. Experts tell us now it's not a pandemic anymore, it's endemic. And I was one of the first people when the pandemic started to crawl into my hole and hunker down. But now when I go out shopping in California, which is one of the most activist states in terms of restricting people's activities, requiring masks, requiring vaccinations, nobody's wearing masks anymore. Nobody's checking people at doors anymore. I think, at least in this part of the country, people have decided this is the new normal, we're going to live with it. And if the world is going back to normal, I think CFA has to follow suit. Whatever minor benefits we can gain by tweaking our show rules every year based on last year's statistics is outweighed by the value of having a consistent set of show rules that people can read, people can review, and people can follow from year to year. I would rather go back to the show rules than another year of trying to tweak the difference or trying to parse out who does or who does not get a regional win. I don't see a huge groundswell coming from CFA to ask us to have another asterisk year. I'd like to return to normal as soon as possible. And I think that's the way most people, at least in regions 1 through 7, feel these days.
Okay, thank you, George. Pam Mosier.
Yeah, I totally agree with George and Melanie. I know that I feel that this is hurting the clubs by reducing the points. So in my region, I usually don't get a lot of input from people, but the last show, a number of people came up to me and said, let's go back. I want to go back to the 100 and the 40. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't go back to that. It's just it's kind of like, to me, it's diluting the win somewhat. Just like when we took away the winner's ribbons, then what happened is that people don't show up. So I think that we need to go back to the 140.
Thank you, Pam. Pam Delabar.
These are for national wins and not regional wins. It doesn't really matter when we put, we're going to count your top 75 rings. Does not mean that you have to stop once you reach 75 rings. You can keep going to amass the points to hopefully get the highest number of rings, points per the top 75 rings. This is a very strange attitude I see on the exhibitors. Nothing is stopping them from showing. If that attitude is out there, it needs to be corrected. Anybody that thinks, okay, I'm going to show 75 rings, I've got, let's say 3,500 points, I'm a shoo-in for a win. No, you're not. Because somebody's going to come along and maybe show a little bit more, make higher wins, and they're going to have the higher overall 75 rings total points than you have. It's a very strange attitude that I'm seeing from some of these exhibitors. And right now we're going over, per my look at statistics, we're talking about approximately overall 150 exhibitors out of our total population. So I don't see where it's going to. We have people who make national wins with under 100 rings, with under 75 rings, or even under 40 rings or 30 rings for the kittens. They just keep adding their points the more they show, hopefully, if the cat is still in condition. So I do not understand. I do not agree with the consternation that's being voiced by both some exhibitors and what George and Melanie have said. The rationale just doesn't hit it.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Mark Hannon, you're recognized.
Yeah, I'm not hearing what Pam and maybe George are hearing. That's Pam Mosier. I'm hearing over and over again 70 and 30. I'm not hearing people that want to go back to 100. And I think it's a little late to say, let's ask the constituents. We can't ask the constituents in time for the beginning of the show season. People that are going to the first show of the season need to know from then how we're scoring. I can cite myself as an example that I showed a cat this year because we were doing 50 rings. I wouldn't have campaigned this cat if I'd known we had to go to 100 rings. Clubs got my entry because we lowered it. Clubs didn't lose entries. They picked up entries from people like me who wouldn't have otherwise bothered.
Thank you, Mark. John Kalila.
I had exhibitors from my region and out of my region approach me. They want to go back to 140, and I would not support anything less than 140.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Melanie. Oh, thank you, John. Melanie, you're recognized.
Thank you. When I say go to the constituents, I'm suggesting that if the constituents want that they bring it to they have till April 15th to write up a resolution. It wouldn't be for this next season. In my opinion, this next season, we should go back to our new normal, 140 rings. And as for the numbers of they can show in as many rings as they want, I think our exhibitors understand that. What changes is if you only count 50 rings, the results are very different than if you count 100 rings. So to say that it doesn't matter and it doesn't make a difference, tell that to the person who's sitting 26th. But if with 50 rings counted, but if they were showing, they would be with 100 rings, they would be 16th. These are people's hopes and dreams we're messing with here. And the numbers are pretty drastic at the bottom. There are quite a number of cats that get bumped out that if they were under our normal scoring system would not. We have plenty of shows. We have well over the top 25 cats have met our 100-point requirement and gone well past that. So clearly there are enough shows in regions 1 through 8 to justify going back to the 100 ring minimum.
Okay, thank you, Carol. You're recognized.
Yes, I think what we might be overlooking here is the average exhibitor. We need to try to find a way to bring the average exhibitor into the fold. If they feel that a win is out of reach for them, they're just not even going to try. By setting the bar midway between the 50 and the 100 at 75, it's a little harder to get, but it's maybe something that the average exhibitor could possibly strive for. And with expenses being what they are, travel restrictions, difficulties flying, difficulties with the gas prices, etc., we have to consider that there may not be as many people able to get to shows, but they may try if they feel they stand a chance. It's just, you can't base your decisions on only a few of the top winners. You have to try to bring in the average person. Without them, there will be no count at the shows.
Kenny, you're recognized.
Yeah, just to inform our constituents that are listening in, when we adopted the 50 rings, Mary Kay helped write these proposals up. And that was specifically because the year before we didn't score national wins because of COVID. It's been a difficult couple of years in order scoring for national wins. And I understand everybody's concerned. It's too early to go back to 140. It's not too early to bump it up a bit for many reasons that people have talked about. We need to continue to give people a goal to reach. And if we make it too hard, we're going to lose people. If we make it too easy, we're going to get the complainers. What I have seen with 50 rings, people can start out early in the year and get to a good level. People could now start out later in the year, and they've only got to get the highest scoring 50 rings. I think we've opened up the competition as opposed to restricting it. But I would certainly support what this committee has come up with.
Okay, anyone else? Nope. Okay, so let's vote on the first motion. And that is championship in regions 1 through 9. The motion is 75 rings, 3,000 point minimum for a national win. All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the yes votes are Mark Cannon, Carol Krasnowski, Pam Delabar, Hayata, Kenny, Kathy Dunham, Sharon Roy, Howard Webster. Okay, you'll take your hands down. The no votes are George Eigenhauser, John Kalila, Steve McCullough, Pam Mosier, Kathy Calhoun, Annette Wilson, Melanie Morgan, Rachel Anger, Rich Maston. If you'll take your hands down, any abstentions? Okay, so Rachel, you can announce.
That's 8 yes votes, 8 no votes, 0 abstentions.
8 and 8, huh? Okay, so I guess I have to break the tie. So I'm
I
gonna,
thought there was 9. 9 no's.
I counted 9 no's as well.
One,
okay.
two. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't vote for myself. Okay, that's thank you guys very much. 8 yes, 9 no, 0 abstentions. Daryl, you're off the hook.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so the motion fails. So let's go to the next motion, which is to go back to 100 rings, 4,000 points in the national win. I don't even know if do we need to vote on that, Shelley? Because it
Oh,
would,
it's the points, I think.
oh,
I'm
is
not
it
sure that the points might be different from what we had before.
okay, all right. Okay, well, let's vote on it and make it clean. Any
Okay.
discussion on the second motion here? No? Okay, so let's vote. All those in favor of the second motion here, which is 100 rings and 4,000 points. If you're in favor, raise your hand. So the yes votes are George Eigenhauser, Melanie Morgan, Steve McCullough, Mark Hannon, John Kalila, Annette Wilson, Pam Mosier, Carol Krasnowski, Hayata Sun, Rich Maston, Kenny Curley, Kathy Calhoun, Kathy Dunham, Howard Webster. If you'll take your hands down. And the no votes are? The no votes are Hayata San, Pam Delabar. Abstentions? Sharon Roy. Rachel, I didn't see your hand up.
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't get it up quickly enough. I am a yes vote.
Oh, okay, all right.
I did not get a vote for Howard Webster.
Howard indicated he was having trouble with his microphone. Howard, could you vote in the chat so that we know what your vote is?
Well, I don't see Howard on here.
Here, I think he dropped off.
Yeah, he's not on the list right now.
Hmm.
Well, we can pick up his vote when he comes back in.
Oh, wait, here he is. I'm promoting him now.
Alrighty. Are you on, Howard? You
He
there,
is,
Howard?
Howard, you're on mute.
Come on.
Okay, but while Howard's getting that resolved, Carol, let's go on to the kittens.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and present the motion. I should, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Motion is for 30 rings credited, 1,000 point minimum for a national win for regions 1 through 9.
Okay, any comments? Rachel?
Just wondering, point of order, if we have 2 motions on the floor at once?
Well, we're just, if Howard can vote, we can just sit here and wait. I'm okay with either.
He says that he can talk, the audio is not working.
Okay, so Howard, would you just put in the chat if you're a yes for the 100 rings and 4,000 points? Okay. No, yes, he's okay with that. You see that, Rachel?
Yes, is that a yes vote then?
You said okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So you can announce a vote.
15 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, Carol. Kittens, regions 1 through 9.
Okay, I already read the motion. Is there a second?
Yep. Need a second.
Rachel seconds, standing
Okay.
second for all the motions in this report here.
Okay, thank you so much for doing that, Rachel. All right, any discussion on the kittens? No discussion. Oh, Mark, go ahead.
Is this 30 rings?
Yes, that was the
Yes.
motion.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. 30 rings and 1,000 points. All right, so let's vote. All those in favor of 30 rings and 1,000 points, raise your hand. Okay, so the yes votes are Howard, Ayata, Pam Delabar, Sharon Roy, Carol Krasnowski, Kenny Curley. Okay, if you'll take your hands down, the no votes. The no votes are Mark Hannon, George Eigenhauser, Melanie Morgan, Rich Maston, Pam Mosier, John Kalila, Kathy Dunham, Kathy Calhoun, Steve McCullough, Annette Wilson, Rachel Anger. You'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Okay, Rachel, you can announce the vote.
That's 6 yes votes, 11 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, the motion is not agreed to. So let's go on to the second motion here for kittens. Run through
Okay.
9.
The next motion is for regions 1 through 9 kittens. 40 rings credited with a 1,400 point minimum for a national win.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion on this?
Is there a second? Oh, Rachel second.
Rachel did a standing second. All right, so let's vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. So the yes votes are George Eigenhauser, Mark Hannon, Pam Mosier, Kenny Curley, Steve McCullough, Melanie Morgan, John Kalila, Carol Krasnowski, Sharon Roy, Kathy Calhoun, Rich Maston, Hayata San, Annette Wilson, Kathy Dunham, and Rachel Anger. You'll take your hands down. No votes. The no votes are Howard and Pam Delabar. Any abstentions? Howard, you want to take your hand down? You voted no. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any abstentions. So Rachel, you can announce the vote.
15 yes votes, 2 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, good deal. Okay, so let's move on to premiership.
Okay, for premiership in regions 1 through 9, the motion is for 75 rings credited, 1,500 point minimum for a national win.
Okay. Any debate on that motion? Okay, so let's call for the yes votes. If you're a yes, raise your hand. So the yes votes are Kenny Curley, Mark Hannon, Carol Krasnowski, Pam Delabar, Sharon Roy, and Hayata San and Howard. Okay, if you'll take your hands down, the no votes are Howard, I thought you voted yes. Thank you. Okay, the no votes are George Eigenhauser, Melanie Morgan, Kathy Dunham, Rich Maston, Steve McCullough, John Kalila, Rachel Anger, Pam Mosier, Kathy Calhoun, and Annette Wilson. You'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Go ahead, Rach, when you're ready.
That's 7 yes, 10 no, 0 abstention.
Okay, thank you. Oh, okay, that's good. All right. So let's go to the next motion for premiers.
Okay, for premiership in regions 1 through 9, the motion is 100 rings credited, 2,000 point minimum for a national win.
Okay, any debate on that? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. We got Rich Maston, Melanie Morgan, Kenny Curley, George Eigenhauser, Annette Wilson, Mark Hannon, Carol Krasnowski, Pamela Mosier, Steve McCullough, Kathy Dunham, John Kalila, Kathy Calhoun. You'll take your hands down. Okay, and the no votes, please raise your hands. The no votes are Pam Delabar, Sharon Roy, Howard Webster, and Hayata-san. You'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? 0 abstentions. Rachel, you can announce the vote.
I was a yes vote, by the way.
Okay, thank you, Rachel.
That's 13 yes, 4 no, 0 abstentions.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so now we're to the household pets.
Yes, the next motion is for household pets in regions 1 through 9. The motion is 50 rings credited, 500-point minimum for a national win.
Okay, any debate? So I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, so I have Kenny Curley, Pam Delabar, Carol Krasnowski, Hayata-san, Sharon Roy, and Howard Webster. You'll take your hands down. The no votes are Kathy Calhoun, George Eichenhauser, Mark Hannon, Rachel Anger, Pam Mosier, Rich Maston, Steve McCullough, John Kalila, Melanie Morgan, Kathy Dunham, Annette Wilson. Thank you all. Any abstentions? Okay. Rachel, you can announce the vote.
Thank you. That's 6 yes, 11 no, 0 abstentions.
The motion is not agreed to, so Carol will do the second motion for household pets.
Yes, for household pets in regions 1 through 9, the motion is 75 rings credited, 750-point minimum for a national win.
Okay, any debate? Let's vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. So the yes votes are Carol Krasnowski, Sharon Roy, Mark Hannon, Melanie Morgan, Annette Wilson, Kathy Dunham, Kathy Calhoun, Rich Maston, John Kalila, Steve McCullough, Pam Delabar. Going once, going twice. All right, you'll take your hands down. The no votes. Kenny Curley, George, hold it.
I'm a yes, Daryl, sorry.
Okay, all right, Rachel, you'll note that. All right, so the no votes are George Eichenhauser, Rachel Anger, Pamela Mosier, and Howard Webster. You'll take your hands down. The abstentions. Hayata-san. Okay, you can announce the vote.
That's 11 yes votes, 5 no votes, 1 abstention.
Okay, the motion is agreed to. The next motion is withdrawn. Okay, so let's go to championship in China, Carol.
Okay, the motion for championship in China is 50 rings credited, 2,000-point minimum for a national win.
Okay. Any debate on that one? Pam Delabar?
The first motion set all parameters for China in each class to the same values for regions 1 through 9. Has that been withdrawn?
If you'll read further, I don't know why that reads as a motion. The committee did not recommend this, but we included it in case. Oh, okay. I should have read that one first, I guess.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, that is a motion.
All right.
Okay.
So if that motion passes, all the rest of them are no.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So
Okay. All right, go ahead, Carol.
apologize for the confusion. So the motion is to set all the parameters for China in each class to the same values as for regions 1 through 9.
Okay. All right, so any debate? Let's vote on that one. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the yes votes are Hayata-san, Kathy Dunham, Pam Delabar, George Eigenhauser, Rachel Anger, Kathy Calhoun, John Kalila, Howard Webster. Annette Wilson, Pamela Mosier, Rich Maston, Kenny Curley, Steve McCullough, and Melanie Morgan, and Sharon Roy. All right, take your hands down, please. All right. The no votes, please. Mark Cannon, Carol Krasnowski. You'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? Okay, so you can read the results, Rachel.
15 yes votes, 2 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, so the motion is agreed to. So the rest of the motions are out of order, or withdrawn. Is that right, Carol?
That's correct.
Okay, so
And now we move on to international area.
okay.
And the first motion is to set all the parameters for the international area in each class to the same values as region 1 through 9.
Okay, any debate here? Nope. Okay, so let's vote on the first motion here. Raise your hands if you're in favor of setting the parameters for the international area to same as China and regions 1 through 9. All those in favor, raise your hands. Okay, yes vote, Sharon Roy. Okay, if you'll take your hand down. The no votes, raise your hand. George Eigenhauser, Mark Hannon, Melanie Morgan, Kenny Curley, Pam Delabar, Carol Krasnowski, Rachel Anger, Steve McCullough, John Kalila, Layata San, Rich Maston, Kathy Calhoun, Kathy Dunham, Annette Wilson, Howard Webster, and Pam Mosier. You'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? No abstentions.
That's 1 yes vote, 16 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, so the motion is not agreed to. So let's move on to the first motion.
Okay, for championship and international area, the motion is for 50 rings credited, 2,000 point minimum for a national win.
Okay, any debate? All right, Rachel?
Carol, would you remind us what it was before COVID? Oh. Oh, good grief. I don't know. Is Mary still on?
Sorry.
It was the
I'm
same.
still- I'm still here.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary. Can you answer the question?
So what was it in the international area in championship before COVID? It was 100 rings and 4,300 points. It was the same as the rest of the world.
Okay. Thank you, Mary Kay.
Okay.
Okay, Pam Delabar?
Oh, sorry. I thought we had divisional wins for the international area.
We do, and we have national wins. This is setting the point minimum for the national wins. Kenny?
Yeah, I'd just like to go a little slower in these areas as far as getting their points up, because they're still facing more challenges with COVID than we are at this point.
Okay, thank you. Mary Kay, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yes, I wanted to go back to what Pam said. Yes, the international division does get divisional wins, but for national wins, we have 3 specific areas. We have regions 1 through 9 is one area. We have China, excluding Hong Kong and I believe Macau. The rest of China is its own area. And then the areas of Hong Kong and all the other areas in the international division are called the international area, and they do compete for national wins.
Thank you, Mary Kay.
Okay.
Okay, so Mary Kay, you mind taking your hand down?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is 50 rings, 2,000 points for a national win. Any other Kenny, can you mute, please? Thank you. Okay, so let's vote on 50 rings and 2,000 points in the international area. So those in favor, raise your hands. So I have Mark Hannon, Kenny Curley, Pam Delabar, John Kalila, Carol Krasnowski, Kathy Dunham, Hayata San, Rachel Anger, Rich Maston, Sharon Roy, Steve McCullough, Howard Webster, Melanie Morgan, Annette Wilson, Kathy Calhoun. Okay, if you'll take your hands down. The no votes are George Eigenhauser, Pam Mosier. You take your hands down. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Okay, Rachel.
That's 15 yes votes, 2 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, so the motion is agreed to. And that means the next 2 motions are withdrawn. And kittens in the international area.
Yes, for kittens in the international area, the motion is 20 rings credited, 700 point minimum for a national win.
Okay. Questions? Debate? All those in favor, raise your hands. All right, so the yes votes are Pam Delabar, Kenny Curley, Carol Krasnowski, Kathy Dunham, Sharon Roy, Rich Maston, Annette Wilson, Howard Webster, Hayata San, Kathy Calhoun, John Kalila, Mark Hannon, and Steve McCullough. You'll take your hands down. Okay, the no votes are Melanie Morgan, George Eigenhauser, Rachel Anger, and Pamela Mosier. You'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? No abstentions.
I did not record a vote for Steve McCullough.
I voted for it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Steve.
That's 13 yes, 4 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay, the motion is agreed to. The next 2 are withdrawn. So let's go to premiership.
Yes, for premiership in the international area, motion is 50 rings credited, 1,000 point minimum for a national win.
Okay. All right, let's vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. So the yes votes are Kenny Curley, Carol Krasnowski, Sharon Roy, Mark Hannon, Pam Delabar, Hayata San, Kathy Dunham, Rich Maston, John Kalila, Annette Wilson, Melanie Morgan, Howard Webster, Steve McCullough, and Kathy Calhoun. You'll take your hands down. The no votes are George Eigenhauser and Pam Mosier and Rachel Anger. You'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Okay, Rachel, you can announce a vote.
That was 14 yes votes, 3 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, the motion is agreed to. The next 2 are withdrawn. And let's go to household pets.
Yes, household pets in the international area, the motion is 50 rings credited, 500 point minimum for a national win.
Okay. Any debate? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor, raise your hands. Got Rachel Anger, Kenny Curley, Carol Krasnowski, Kathy Calhoun, Melanie Morgan, Rich Maston, Mark Hannon, Pam Delabar, Kathy Dunham, Hayata San, Steve McCullough, Sharon Roy, John Kalila, Annette Wilson, Howard Webster. You'll take your hands down. Okay, and the no votes are George Eigenhauser and Pam Mosier. Abstentions? No abstentions, Rachel.
That's 15 yes votes, 2 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you. And the motion is agreed to. The next 2 are withdrawn. And agility.
Yes, this is the final motion for agility in all areas. The motion is that each cat, kitten, household pet will be credited with the results from its 7 highest shows.
Okay. Is there debate on that? Steve McCullough?
What is it before COVID? Was it 10?
Again, I defer to Mary to see if she has an answer to that.
Go ahead, Mary Kay.
It was 15. I believe it was 15.
Oh, it's 15. So we're going from 15 down to 7.
Yes. And this is what it is for this year. So it's just keeping what we have this year.
Okay. All right. Got it. Thank you, Mary Kay, for that update. All right. Any debate on that? Continuing on with 7 high scoring shows. All right. Let's vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. So I have Mark Cannon, Kenny Curley, Carol Krasnowski, Pam Delavard, George Eichenhauser, Rachel Anger, Hayata Sign, Kathy Calhoun, Sharon Roy, John Colella, Melanie Morgan, Rich Maston, Steve McCullough, Kathy Dunham, Annette Wilson, and Pamela Mosier. You'll take your hands down. Any no votes? Any abstentions? Okay, Rachel, you can announce the vote.
I did not get a vote from Howard Webster. I don't see him on the call.
Yeah, he's there.
He
Howard?
is?
Yeah,
Oh, there he is, Clown Town. Yeah.
Howard, if you're a yes, raise your hand. Okay, Howard, if you're a no, raise your hand.
If he can't raise his hand, maybe he could put it in the chat.
Okay. Howard, if you're not there, raise your hand. Calling Howard. Calling Howard. Can you put your vote in the chat so we can move on?
Now he's dropped off.
Oh, okay.
He's not in the audience yet, Daryl. I don't know when he'll be back.
Okay, well,
This is Kathy Calhoun. Does anybody have his phone number?
I have it.
Could somebody just call him and just vote so we can move on?
He votes yes.
thank you. So you can announce the vote.
17 yes, 0 no, 0 abstentions.
Okay, the motion is agreed to, and I get is the next motion withdrawn, Carol, or not? Is that another motion?
That was the end. Wait a minute. Oh, there is another motion, excuse me. Yeah. Okay, so the motion for agility. If a cat, kitten, household pet is exhibited in shows totaling less than the maximum number of credited rings, total credited points will be the sum of total points earned. For agility, if a cat, kitten, wait a minute, I read that wrong. I think, wait, I'm going back, strike that. The motion is for championship kitten and household pet. If they are exhibited in shows totaling less than the maximum number of credited rings, total credited points will be the sum of total points earned. For agility, if a cat, kitten, household pet is exhibited in fewer than the maximum number of credited shows, total credited points will be the sum of total points earned. I believe that's the case anyway, so I don't
Yeah.
know if we need this motion.
Mary Kay,
Okay, so in the actual show rules, it has numbers in there. So this is like a housekeeping thing. It says if a cat household pet is exhibited in less than 100. And since, and no, you don't need this except for agility, you changed it to 7. And you also changed it for the international area. So this is like housekeeping to make sure that this still stands, because in the actual show rules, it has specific rings in that particular rule.
okay,
Okay.
all right. So any debate on this housekeeping motion? Is there any objection to the motion? Okay, no objection. By unanimous consent, the motion's adopted. Okay, Carol, anything else?
No, that really does conclude the report and the action items. Thank you very much.
Thanks, you guys did a lot of work, so some of it was agreed to, so. All right, let's move on to, are there any other committee reports we haven't addressed? All right, so we got 2 new business item. Number 1 is Aleen's live stream issue.
Yes, I just wanted to ascertain if there was any interest in live streaming the annual meeting and related meetings, like the board meeting on Thursday, the meetings on Saturday and Sunday's board meeting. If there is any interest in live streaming, we can do that. However, it would require the purchase of some equipment, some camera equipment, and some accessories. So first, I guess there would be, is there an interest in live streaming? The cost of the equipment would be $1,500, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at.
Ma'am Delabar, you're recognized.
I believe there is a great deal of interest in live streaming of our meetings at the annual meeting. I know that there were several clubs here in Region 9 that had desired we have a hybrid meeting, in person and online, or as we did last year, though I know that that is not something we can do with minimum room counts required. But I believe that streaming really helps people feel part of the organization.
So can you make that into a motion?
I so move what I just said.
Okay.
George seconds what she just said.
Thank you. Okay, so now, George, you want to add to the debate?
I was just going to say ditto to everything Pam said.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? Kathy Calhoun, you want to make a comment since this is spending money? You're muted, Kathy.
My concern is, while I think it's very much, it would broaden our reach, it will probably have an impact on our our room count. So there may be a significant trade-off for this.
Okay. Anybody else? Pam Delabar? You're muted.
Delegates still have to attend. This helps everybody outside of the US. We're a global organization, and we have many people who participate in CFA outside the US that will not be delegates because they can't be unless I can get an amendment passed, which would be effective for next year. It shouldn't affect our room count at all, because we still have to have delegates and award winners and everybody else filling up that hotel. Think globally.
Yep. Any other comments? All right, so let's vote
Kathy has
on.
a comment.
Oh, go ahead, Kathy.
I think that there are probably more than delegates and award winners that attend annuals. So that there will be some impact. I don't know if it would be dramatic, but I think there will be some.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's vote. All those in favor of live streaming meetings at the annual, raise your hands. All right, so the yes votes are Mark Hannon, Kenny Curley, George Eigenhauser, Carol Krasnowski, Rich Maston, Hayata San, Steve McCullough, Melanie Morgan, Kathy Dunham, Sharon Roy, Pam Delabar, Rachel Anger, Pam Mosier, John Kalila, Annette Wilson, Kathy Calhoun. All right, if you'll take your hands down, the no votes are none. Abstentions? 0. Okay.
That's 16 yes votes, 0 no votes, 0 abstentions, 1 did not vote.
All right, so let's move on to Sharon Roy. You had an item about an entry limit, I believe.
Yes, and this really was a mistake on Region 1's part, and I'll take the blame for it. When we licensed, we didn't make an exception to the fact that we wanted a lower entry limit. And it wasn't until Kat Brady was doing our flyer that she said, but the CFA website says 225 and you're saying our flyer is blah, blah. And so anyway, all I'm asking is that we allow Region 1 to reduce the number of entries from the 225 that was on the original application to 150 entries.
Rachel seconds.
Thank you. George Eigenhauser.
How soon is the show?
Pardon?
When is the show date?
Weekend for.
I heard nothing of that over the blender.
Kenny, can you mute, please? Thank you. Kenny? Yep, thank you.
It's the weekend before the annual, the 3rd weekend of June.
So it's a couple of months.
Yes.
No problem. Thanks.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any more debate? Is there any objection to the motion to decrease from 225 to 150, the entry limit for the Region 1 regional show? Okay, I see no objection. By unanimous consent, the rule is adopted.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else in open session? No? Okay, so, okay, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much.